Hello. In a poem by Robert Frost, it is expressed that good walls make good neighbors. I disagree. Good communication and good roads and bridges make good neighbors. And as a witness to that, today we have here both the All Souls bell ringers and the senior minister at All Souls, Reverend Dr. Kendyl Gibbons, who has traveled across the road, across the state line to here, as neighbors do when they go visiting. And one other thing I want to say about Dr. Gibbons is Reverend Rose has sort of a fangirl crush on her. When she was a teenager in St. Paul going to Unity Church, Reverend Gibbons was across the city line in Minneapolis at First Unitarian. So there's a long sort of connection here, and it's nice to see old friends. So, welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. Those of you who are visiting, feel free to get to know more about us afterwards at coffee hour, which will be out through those doors. There you can find out all sorts of stuff about the church and about the denomination, stuff that might be useful going forward. If you are a visitor, what we're doing today is somewhat unusual. We do not usually have the bells. We also do not usually have the presence of Dr. Gibbons. So come back next week and you'll see something different. Those of you online, hello. And let us now get up from our seats, move about the room, and greet our neighbors. It's good to be here. It's good to be here together. Reverend Rose has some announcements.
Good morning. It's lovely to see you all here on this beautiful spring day. I have a few announcements this morning. First of all, I'd like to invite any newcomers to a starting point class in my office on May 8th. This is a time to meet other newcomers or members of the church, ask questions, and reflect on what brings you to SMUUCh today. For more information about Starting Point and to sign up for the class, please see the item in your weekly all-church email. There's also a QR code in the QR corner bulletin board in the fellowship hall. On the same note, if you're here today and you want to know more, please come to the Just the Basics session today for a 30-minute newcomer session immediately following the service. So grab a cup of coffee and meet Jim Christ, who's waving back there in the foyer near the welcome table. And if you're a young adult, head down the hall for a special luncheon. Young adult is 18 to 35. You're in for friendship and tacos. Finally, we are grateful to all of our guest musicians who are here today to bring their special talents with them. We warmly welcome the All Souls Handbell Choir under the direction of Ruth Rabarge. And we're grateful to our special hymn leader, Becky Barda.
Well, once again, good morning. It is an honor and a delight to be here with you on this auspicious day and to bring you greetings from your Unitarian Universalist neighbors downtown at All Souls. We congratulate my colleague and friend, Reverend Rose, on the birth of her daughter and on the completion of her sabbatical. Welcome now to this holy hour of reflection and renewal. We share our thanks for the beauty and bounty of the earth around us, including this pleasant spring weather. While in this house of compassion and peace, we remember those beloved ones who have passed from our presence into the realm of death and summon them close to us in the shrine of our heart's deepest memory. Here let us remember also all sorrowing and troubled folk whose days are darkened by greed and wrong and tragedy. Let us remember wars and rumors of wars and confess that we have made but feeble efforts to understand the peoples of the world and to bring peace among the nations. That we have too often chosen the lesser gifts of life when we are called to lift up examples of generosity and heroism and enlarge our souls with new devotion to truth, justice, and the common good. Let us kindle again the flame of our covenant promise of freedom, reason, and human dignity and kinship, that we may rise together as a beacon of more abundant life, wisdom, and goodwill.
Come, let us worship. Please rise as you're willing and able for a brand new hymn, Think Truly.
Think truly, and your honest thought a hungry world shall feed. Speak truly, and each word you say shall be a fruitful seed. Live truly, and your life shall show a great and noble creed. Think kindly, and your caring thoughts broken world shall mend. Speak gently, and each word of peace shall find a faithful friend. Live simply, and your life will be a blessing without end.
Would Mr. and Mrs. Schwab join us on the dais to light the chalice. For those of you who don't know, Rose's parents. As they light the chalice, let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another. Thank you. Each month, following the Soul Matters curriculum, members of the church in their small groups, children in their classroom, and here at service, we reflect on a theme. The theme for April is interdependence. If the discovery of Jesus' body by his disciples in an alternate telling of the Easter narrative is what got me to join the Unitarians, go back 2 weeks and you'll know. It is the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, that resonates most deeply for me and which keeps me in the group. I recall an episode of Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth where Campbell and Bill Moyers were discussing Christianity with its idea of original sin and the concept of the fall. Campbell recalled hearing a Zen philosopher, Dr. D.T. Suzuki, address a group. According to Campbell, Suzuki stood up and he had his hands slowly rubbing his side and said, God against man, man against God, man against nature, nature against man, nature against God, God against nature. Very funny religion. You add to that a toxic emphasis on binary opposition, us against them, something that's key to a lot of Western thinking, and you have a troubling mess where individual privilege often tops the common good, where one group is seen as better than another, and where people sometimes feel they can do anything to the natural world with impunity. But if we consider viewing things instead through the lens of the respect for the interdependent web of which we are a part, well then, we have something that offers both challenge and promise. It offers a promise of the beloved community. It offers a promise of harmony. It challenges us when we fall short of that promise. And if the world seems too big and that we are no more than a small part of the whole, we still remain a part of that whole, and small actions taken by us from a loving regard will ripple forth and have some positive effect out there, which is also in here. And now, the child dedication.
I will note that whenever I participate in the ceremony of dedication for children, bringing them into the covenant of our faith, I recall my own experience growing up in a Unitarian Universalist community. The hymns that we sang together from a children's hymnal created by the Unitarians, the Universalists, and the Ethical Culture Society, now long out of print, shaped my values and my spiritual life, as perhaps they did also for Reverend Rose. And so I have invited you to share one of them this morning. I hope you enjoyed it. Children are given to us out of mystery. From time immemorial, men and women have brought their children before their religious communities to be rejoiced over. By doing so, they affirm that their children's lives are sacred. This morning we celebrate the uniquely Unitarian Universalist expression of this ancient ritual. Rose and Anna, will you and your families please come forward? Among the wise and beautiful writings of Kendyl Gibbons, there is a passage that has become almost scriptural for religious liberals in its account of children and parenting. It begins, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. And though they are with you, they belong not to you." As religious liberals, we do not believe that children come into the world somehow tainted by their own human nature. We do believe in the potential resident in every human being for knowledge, for faith, for virtue, and for love. We use the budding rose as a symbol of these possibilities, now hidden within this child, to be unfolded one by one as they grow. Today we have removed the thorns from this stem. So that they might not injure her. Over the years, as she grows into maturity, we will place other blossoms in her hands, and we will give her more and more responsibility for taking care to avoid injuring herself or others with the dangers that are part of the nature of this world. And we will try to help her grow as well into the realization that she will not be able to protect either herself or others from all pain or danger, though that is a task we share with her in this season of her life. Clear water is an age-old symbol of purity and blessing, used here to represent the love and investment that will help this child to thrive, even as the rains nourish the flowers. Yeah. It reminds us also of the ties that bind our children and ourselves and every other living thing together to the earth, which is our nurturing home. Rose and Anna, is it now your will that this child be raised in the liberal religious tradition? And is it your intention to cherish her individuality, teaching by your example as well as precept the values of truth, justice, compassion, and the unique worth of every person?
It is.
Okay. Who are the godparents that are here with us today? All right. Tell me their names.
Mariella, Jimena, and Arthur.
Arthur, Mariella, and Jimena. Are you willing to take upon yourselves the responsibilities of godparent to this child, and out of love for her and for her parents, to watch her growing up with tender, respectful, and forgiving eyes, helping her in such ways as you may to come to adulthood as a unique person, fully human, free, responsible, and whole? All right, great. Rose and Anna, your responsibility is the first and the greatest, as once you pledged yourselves to each other in love and loyalty, will you now expand that covenant to include your daughter and humanity's need for her?
Yes.
What is her name called?
Marisol Tomoe.
Marisol Tomoe, I dedicate you unto the knowledge, the seeking, and the service of all that is best in life, unto that holy vision which shall command you and bless you and all whose lives you touch. I endow you with the ancient and noble heritage of the liberal religious tradition, and I welcome you into the community of our faith. May you grow in the light of truth and grace. May your days be long upon the earth for service and for song, and may you leave a legacy rich in work, in aspiration, and in love. Will the congregation please join me in the words of the response that I believe will be on the screen? Who are our children that we are mindful of them? By them we are reminded of life's small joys and wisdoms. They are the heirs of the work that we have done and are doing, the next generation unto whom the torch of our tradition shall pass from our hands. They shall build upon the foundations that we lay. They are the yet unwritten chapter in the story of our faith. This being the case, what do we promise unto them and to their parents? We pledge them our love and support, the listening ear and the helping hand in times of trial. We pledge them to be with kindness, a place where their beliefs, their doubts, and their questions are received with gentleness and respect. We pledge them knowledge, skepticism of the too easy answer, and of pointing to the ever open road. We pledge them tradition to pass on to their own and place to come home. And I believe at this time the children are invited to go to their own meetings, and we will excuse them with song.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
We come to this place to see and be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and be heard. We also come to this place to see each other. I invite you to reach out and nudge the person sitting next to you, reminding them that we are gathered here together in intention and community. We also come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a rare joy or a profound sorrow, I invite you to come forward and light a candle. You don't have to. Do you want to talk?
It's just a joy to be here with my granddaughter and all my family, my mother, my daughters, my new daughter, and all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
I want to come up here and say it was a joy to go out to Arkansas with Nick last week to see the eclipse.
Good morning. I'm lighting a candle of joy for my son Aiden. When he was a toddler, we discovered he had a really rare brain tumor. Luckily, it was not cancerous. They were able to remove it all, but it's been really hard for him ever since, trying to regain motor control and things like that. And we just had his scan a few weeks ago, and the tumor is still gone. So we're always so excited and glad to get that news.
This isn't as big of a deal as that or anything, but I traveled for the eclipse too to Arkansas, and it was a 10. It was an absolute 10. I've never seen anything like it. I wasn't expecting it to be as moving as it was, and I just wanted to share that joy.
I light the remaining candles for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. Y también estoy muy agradecida para ustedes para venir. Te la abuelita.
We hear your words. We witness your life in all of its heaviness, in all of its brilliance, and we carry your joys and sorrows in our shared heart.
Please join me for a moment of silence, placing your feet flat on the floor, closing your eyes, coming into your body. We'll just start by taking a deep breath together and letting it out. I invite you to become aware of your own breathing, letting the corners of your lips turn up. We'll do a short loving kindness meditation today. I invite you to draw to mind someone in your life who is very easy to love. Imagining their face, their smile, their hands. This could be someone who you work with, someone who you serve, someone in your family, yourself, your dog. Placing your hands over your own heart, we'll take another deep breath and repeat after me. May you be free from suffering. May you be free from harm. May you be free. And then turning your attention inwards to yourself, knowing only what you can know about your own sorrows and joys. I invite you to repeat after me. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from harm. May I be free. And then you can put your hands palm up in your lap, knowing that we live in such a broken and troubled world, such a beautiful and gorgeous world, full of everything, everywhere, all at once. I invite you to repeat after me. May we be free from suffering. May we be free from harm. May we be free. I invite you to remain in this posture of openness as we sing our meditative hymn, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Not in our name. This statement of conscience was published as a full-page advertisement in the New York Times, September 19th, 2001, signed by more than 2,000 prominent artists, journalists, scholars, and activists, with additional endorsing signatures being sought. It read as follows. Let it not be said that the people in the United States did nothing when their government declared a war without limit and instituted stark new measures of repression. The signers of this statement call on the people of the United States to resist the policies and overall political direction that have emerged since September 11th, 2001, and which pose grave dangers to the people of the world. We believe that peoples and nations have the right to determine their own destiny, free from military coercion by great powers. We believe that all persons detained and prosecuted by the United States government should have the same rights of due process. We believe that questioning, criticism, and dissent must be valued and protected. We understand that such rights and values are always contested and must be fought for. We believe that people of conscience must take responsibility for what their own governments do. We must first of all oppose the injustice that is done in our name. Thus, we call on all Americans to resist the war and oppression that have been loosed on the world by the Bush administration. It is unjust, immoral, and illegitimate. In our name, the Bush administration, with near unanimity from Congress, not only attacked Afghanistan, but arrogated to itself and its allies the right to rain down military force anywhere and at any time. The government now openly prepares to wage all-out war on Iraq, a country which has no connection to the horror of September 11th. In our name, within the United States, the government created two classes of people, those to whom the basic rights of the U.S. legal system are at least promised, and those who now seem to have no rights at all. The government rounded up over 1,000 immigrants and detained them in secret and indefinitely. Hundreds have been deported, and hundreds of others still languish today in prison. This smacks of the infamous concentration camps for Japanese Americans in World War II. For the first time in decades, immigration procedures single out certain nationalities for unequal treatment. In our name, the government has brought down a wall of repression over society. The president's spokesperson wants people to watch what they say. Dissident artists, intellectuals, and professors find their views distorted, attacked, and suppressed. The so-called Patriot Act, along with a host of similar measures on the state level, give the police sweeping new powers of search and seizure, supervised, if at all, by secret proceedings before secret courts. In our name, the executive has steadily usurped the role and functions of the other branches of government. Military tribunals with lax rules of evidence and no right to appeal to the regular courts are put in place by executive order. Groups are declared terrorist at the stroke of a presidential pen. We must take the highest officers of this land seriously when they talk of a war that will last a generation and when they speak of a new domestic order. We are confronting a new openly imperial policy toward the world and a domestic policy that manufactures and manipulates fear to curtail rights. There is a deadly trajectory to the events of the past month that must be seen for what it is and resisted. Too many times in history, people have waited until it was too late to resist. President Bush has declared, "You're either with us or against us." Here is our answer. We refuse to allow you to speak for all the American people. We will not give up our right to question. We will not hand over our consciences in return for a hollow promise of safety. We say, not in our name. We who sign this statement call on all Americans to join together to rise to this challenge. Let us not allow the watching world today to despair of our silence and our failure to act. Instead, let the world hear our pledge. We will resist the machinery of war and repression and rally others to do everything possible to stop it.
I was a teenager when the anti-Vietnam War protests were at their height. And of course, Vietnam was a divisive and vexed political question, and I was just a shade too young to know anyone personally who went. Nevertheless, the clamor all around me was inescapable, and I learned to take the untrustworthiness of government as a premise of adult thinking, and to hear overt expressions of patriotism as encrypted statements justifying and supporting war. At the same time, in the heyday of hippiedom, one acerbic observation by the poet Robert Frost struck me as prophetic. "I never dared be radical when young," he wrote, "for fear it would make me conservative when old." Well, I wasn't much of a radical in those days. When I got to college, I went to class, got married young, kept my shoes on and my bra unburned, which perhaps explains why I'm assuredly no conservative now. Reaching further back into memory, there were two texts that grade school children were expected to recite every day in my school. They were the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. My Unitarian Universalist parents and church made a point of assuring me that if I didn't want to say the Lord's Prayer, I didn't have to. And in point of fact, I didn't mind it that much. It was an opportunity to show off my prodigious capacity for memorization. But no one ever suggested that I might have any objection to the Pledge of Allegiance, and so I dutifully recited it daily during my school years and whenever I was called upon to do so thereafter. Thus, it is perhaps one of the ironies of the first years of this century that in the wake of September 11th, 2001, when I experienced more unambiguous feelings of simple patriotism than I had ever previously known, in that same year, I renounced saying that particular pledge ever again. My renunciation began with a lawsuit brought by a self-identified atheist on behalf of his daughter, who was being asked to say, or at least hear, the Pledge of Allegiance as part of her public school education in the state of California. While acknowledging that previous rulings had established his daughter's right not to participate personally in the pledge, Michael Newdow maintained that her being compelled to watch and listen as her state-employed teacher in her state-run school leads her classmates in a ritual proclaiming that there is a God and that ours is one nation under God violates the principle of separation of church and state. Perhaps surprisingly, given the climate of the times, the U.S. Circuit Court agreed. A profession that we are one nation under God is identical for Establishment Clause purposes to a profession that we are one nation under Jesus, a nation under Vishnu, a nation under Zeus, or a nation under no God, because none of these professions can be neutral with respect to religion. Judge Alfred T. Goodwin wrote for the three-judge panel. Not surprisingly, Orthodox and conservative reaction to the ruling was swift and strong. California lawmakers were asked by the National Republican Congressional Committee to instruct local school boards to ignore the decision. Within hours of the ruling, the Senate voted a resolution to support the pledge, 99-0. and federal legal counsel was instructed to intervene and defend its constitutionality. All of which is testimony to the power of habit, for this particular collection of wording is neither as long-standing nor as politically pure in its origins as those who came rushing to its defense might have supposed. Many of us know more about the history of the Pledge of Allegiance today than we did a few years ago, but it is worth observing that its author was Francis Bellamy, a Baptist minister and Christian socialist, brother of Edward Bellamy, the author of the utopian novel Looking Backward. Fired from his pulpit because of objections to his socialist sermons, Reverend Bellamy was hired by Daniel Ford, owner and editor of the Youth's Companion, the leading family magazine of its day, perhaps comparable to the modern Reader's Digest. Ford had been a supportive parishioner in Bellamy's Boston congregation, and when the minister was forced out, the editor hired him as an assistant. In 1892, Francis Bellamy was also serving as chairman of a committee of state superintendents of education in the National Education Association, and in this capacity, he prepared the program for the 400th anniversary celebration of Columbus Day in 1892. He structured this public school program around a flag-raising ceremony and the flag salute, his Pledge of Allegiance. After contemplating the words of the familiar slogan of the French Revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity, Bellamy concluded, "No, that would be too fanciful, too many thousands of years off in realization. But we as a nation do stand square on the doctrine of liberty and justice for all." His original pledge was to my flag and contained no mention of God. In 1923, almost 30 years after its first publication in the pages of the Youth's Companion, the words of the pledge, "My flag," were changed to "the flag of the United States of America" by the National Flag Conference under the leadership of the American Legion and the Daughters of the American Revolution. Bellamy disliked this change, but his protest was ignored. 30 years later, at the height of national anxiety over godless communism, the wording was changed again to incorporate the now controversial phrase, "under God." Bellamy's granddaughter says he also would have resented the second change. He had been pressured into leaving his church in 1891 because of his socialist sermons, and in his retirement in Florida, he stopped attending church altogether because he disliked the racial bigotry he found there. Thus do the cycles of history circle back upon one another. I find it delightfully ironic that the most conservative members of the federal government have been seeking to defend a statement originally crafted by a man whose political convictions would have made him a target of investigation, certainly had he been alive 60 years later, and even perhaps were he alive today. I also got a chuckle out of the many creative suggestions for substitute language that were floating around in the wake of the Circuit Court's decision. One nation under investigation was offered, as well as under indictment, and my personal favorite, the geographically indisputable one nation under Canada. But I have to confess that having had my attention called to the actual language of the statement and consciously considered it for the first time in at least 42 years of reciting it, what appalls me is not the presence or absence of God language, although I do heartily prefer Bellamy's original version. What troubles me more, and what indeed I am not willing to do hereafter, is the idea of giving my allegiance to a flag. One of the most basic obligations I learned when growing up as a humanist was to guard the integrity of my given word. Who and what I am as a human being is not predicated on the role assigned to me by a supernatural creator. Neither am I merely a cog in the preordained workings of some cosmic machine. Rather, I am what I say I am. I am the loyalties I give, the promises I keep, the values I affirm, the covenants by which I undertake to live. To give my loyalties carelessly, to bespeak commitments casually, is to throw away the integrity that defines me, that helps me to live in wholeness and to cherish the unique worth and dignity of myself as a person. When I am trying to describe to people unfamiliar with our tradition how the early Unitarians and Universalists were similar to each other, I point out that for both groups it was of fundamental importance that no one should come to church and repeat words that they did not in fact believe or the meaning of which they did not understand. To do so would be to lie to God, and whatever else they may have been unsure of, they were sure that this could not possibly be what God wanted. The integrity of conscience cannot be a privilege of freedom that we demand if it is not also a discipline by which we regulate our own conduct. We had better mean what we solemnly, publicly say and assent to. One of the most fundamental concepts that I later learned in theological school was the larger meaning of idolatry. It's not just about bowing down to graven images or praying to the wrong God. It's really about confusing what is ultimate with the transient, trivial, or illusory things of the world. To think that one's own nation has the right to tell everyone else in the world what to do would be idolatry. To give over to another person the responsibility for making the challenging decisions of one's own life would be idolatry. To behave as if money was the most real and valuable thing in life would be idolatry. But above all, to mistake the symbol of what is ultimate or the name of what is ultimate for what is truly ultimate is idolatry. To confuse the nation as it moves through history with the ideals on which that nation was ostensibly founded is idolatry. And to mistake the nation's flag for the nation itself is idolatry multiplied. My allegiance is to liberty, to equal justice, to human dignity and peace. It is not and never really has been to any flag or any piece of fabric, and I never should have said that it was. I never will again. I suppose, in truth, that I can imagine a situation in which I might repeat the Pledge of Allegiance as an act of participation in someone else's cultural artifact of reverence, as I do, for instance, with the Lord's Prayer at a Christian funeral service, because it honors the convictions of another person, not because it expresses my own. As part of the poetic heritage of our culture, then, let it stand, but no longer a living promise and certainly not my own. Still, I am left with a deeper dilemma, and one that lies at the heart of liberal religion and the larger liberal tradition, which is why idolatry is not always such a simple thing to renounce. It is easy to be clear that my allegiance is not to a piece of cloth, nor to a particular arrangement of colors on cloth or anywhere else. But having rejected that, where am I willing to say that my allegiance lies? Liberty and justice, peace and dignity, these are all very well, and indeed the ultimate values in the service of which I would wish to spend my life and my gifts. But how does one go out and work for liberty exactly, or for peace? They are not objects lying about in the street. And this is where the founding myth of Christianity has something to teach us. For all that is ultimate, our dearest values and most cherished aspirations, remains abstract and impotent until it is given incarnation. Incarnation, literally the taking on of flesh, is the process of making real and tangible in a world of material objects and physical forces the abstraction to which our allegiance is honestly and properly given. We do this through the creation of real things, objects, events, relationships, institutions that bring those values to life, that give them form. If we value peace, we create institutions, like the United Nations, for instance, dedicated to nourishing peace, we seek to eliminate the weapons of war. If we value justice, we create constitutions and a system of judicial checks and balances that will help to make just decisions. Whatever our values are, we have to clothe them in the skin and bones of this world, in the buildings of our cities and the practices of our culture, in the art we make and the songs we sing, in the churches we join and the schools we run, in the machines we invent and the jobs we do, in the elections we conduct. But here's the tricky part. All that stuff, the institutions and the systems and the inventions, it's always flawed. We never get it exactly right. We never fully and perfectly incarnate the ultimate ideas to which our allegiance is given. Human fallibility and the finitude of the cosmos always pulls us up short. We never have enough time, enough resources, enough patience, enough wisdom and courage to create anything that entirely realizes our greatest intentions. Thus, whenever we try to do what we must do, try to incarnate the values of our allegiance and make them real in the world, we end up with an outcome that is not worthy of our absolute loyalty. We end up with a candidate for idolatry every time. And so it is with this great and terrible, wounded and fragile, incandescent and heedless nation of which we are citizens. This country is an aching attempt to incarnate in history the magnificent propositions that all people are equal in worth and dignity, that freedom and justice are human birthrights, that we must live together in a covenant of mutual responsibility and consent. These great ideas, liberty, equality, human kinship, are no good to us floating in some philosophical ether. They must be brought into the institutions of a government that can make them real in the world, a government that will necessarily in practice fall short of the ideals upon which it was established over and over again. Our founding fathers knew this, I believe. That is precisely why they strove with all of their considerable knowledge of history, their intelligence and creativity, to formulate a system that should not be so much perfect as self-correcting. They knew that they left slavery as a festering sore in the body of their new nation that future generations would have to bear the pain of excising. They knew that temptations and emergencies and threats would come. They knew that power-hungry leaders would arise. They knew that they could not know their own blindnesses, even to things as simple as equal justice for women. They knew that they could not solve in advance all the problems that we, their progeny, would confront. They could only try to pass on to us, down the generations, their allegiance to the ideals, for ideals are the one thing that can travel through time uncorrupted. The incarnation of those ideals at any given moment would become our responsibility. I will not give my allegiance to a flag. It is too flimsy a thing, in good times or in bad. If it is even a symbol for the values I most cherish, it is only because of the sacrifices that others have made in its name. I will not commit the idolatry of mistaking the flag for the nation or the nation for the ideals. Yet I must find an abiding place for my loyalty, lest it evaporate into the mist of disincarnate values, powerless to give any shape to the real lives that we live in the real world. Therefore, my allegiance is to my country as an expression of its ideals. To the extent that the republic for which our flag stands is faithful to the premises of its founding and to the practices that have evolved over 2 centuries to safeguard our freedoms and equal justice, it has my loyalty, my devotion, and even at times my pride. But to the extent that it is a finite and imperfect expression of the ideals to which my allegiance is ultimately given, to the extent that it falls into deceit and self-deception, into arrogance and coercion and violence, into self-serving secrecy and double standards of justice, to that extent my loyalty must take the form of protest and my devotion must be expressed in dissent. I submit to you, my friends and fellow citizens, that we find ourselves today in such time. If we do not raise our voices loudly and soon, the elected leadership of this country will be justified in thinking that they have our consent to what they have done and propose to do. They will believe that we are indeed willing to exchange our liberties for the mirage of security. The world will be justified in thinking that the United States has acted with singleness of mind and purpose, that revenge and greed are cornerstones of our character as well as our policies. If a librarian can be found guilty of a federal felony for telling a reporter that government agents want a list of what you have been reading, if any American citizen can be locked up without charges filed, without access to counsel or legal recourse for as long as the government chooses, if your house can be searched or your telephone tapped or your email monitored without your knowledge or any judicial process, if the President of the United States can unilaterally order the attack of another sovereign nation against the advice of our allies and without consulting Congress, what liberties are we still protecting? What is it that remains of the free or the brave in this land that is our home? It is sometimes claimed that these are temporary measures implemented to respond to a situation of crisis. Yes, and I have a bridge I'd like to sell you too. In his book, Crisis and Leviathan, Robert Higgs, who now works at the Independence Institute, wrote that wars and other national traumas always inspire growth in government power and erosions in protection for individual liberty. After the war is over, much but not all of the crisis-inspired power is surrendered again. There is always some permanent loss of liberty. If Higgs is right, and the war on terrorism follows in the wake of past crises, the situation may gradually improve somewhat, but Americans will probably never again be as free as we were on September 10th, 2001. I say, let it not be in our name. I say if we can do nothing else, let us go down kicking and screaming, trying to let the rest of the world know, trying to send a message in the bottle of history to our children's children that some of us didn't want it this way. Some of us didn't want war, didn't believe in our nation as a global bully. Some of us pledged our allegiance not to a flag of stars and stripes, but to a premise of freedom and an ideal of justice. Maybe, just maybe, there is another possibility. Maybe we are not as alone as we might think. Maybe the people next door and down the street and around the block don't want this either. Don't want a war without meaning and a government without limits. Perhaps, if we raise our voices, if we sign the petitions and write the letters and file the lawsuits and fund the initiatives, then perhaps we may go to jail. Or perhaps we may awaken a rising chorus of no, not in our name, from our fellow citizens and turn back this flood tide of old oppressions in new packages. It has been wisely said that when fascism comes to America, it will arrive wrapped in the flag and waving a cross. Baby Marisol will grow up and have to learn about the events of September 11th, 2001 as a history lesson. I hope she may not also have to learn that this national trauma became the pretext for the dissolution of the system of liberties and rights that had once made our country admired for the ideals of freedom it proclaimed and sought to exemplify. I hope she comes to cherish the commitment to liberty and justice for everyone, and I hope that our faith community teaches her clearly that no flag and no president is worthy to receive the reverence that she ought to reserve for those ideas and ideals which are actually ultimate. We dared not be radical when young, Frost and I. We never said anything about what might come later. In celebration of the rising generations who we hope will carry on the values that we have found sacred in our own lives and communities, and in honor of the dear ones whose memories we cherish, will you now join me in song?
The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values.
Not supposed to be around right on 10. We're going to count 3. We'll play that note coming into 10. We'll start at 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now, please rise as you are willing and able. For hymn 354, We Laugh, We Cry. And I saw how you guys did on the first hymn that we've done before, so stand and deliver.
And hearts speak the word of a child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love. When we have round a time to be together, and with the grace of age we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. As we live, so shall we die. Are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search the truth in tea and blessed peace of mind, and then we wound together here to make some believe in life and in the strength of love.
Now may you all grow in the light of truth and grace. May your days be long upon the earth for service and for song, and may you leave a legacy rich in work, in aspiration, and in love. Go in peace.